I'm a producer, DJ, and African music ambassador. 2016 was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna push African music. There's people that own these labels. They're not for us, they're not by us. If we don't rebuild now, when are we gonna do that? So whenever you come to Africa and you're a black person, make sure you acquire property. It should be more than, oh, I'm coming for Dirty December. You gotta find yourself. You gotta connect back. Or you're African American, you're American. Like, it's just a label. Like, forget about the label because that's what they want you to focus on. Africa is not really the name Africa.
Blaq Pages. What was that journey like moving to the U.S. At 15 from Ghana and now, you know, starting Afrobeats to the world and being a producer and DJ in the space in the U.S.?
Man, I mean, leaving Ghana was, you know, first of all, you want to leave home, but also you don't want to leave home. But I left the U.S. 15. I went, and there was always something that will have you come back home, right? And I feel like family, food has been one of those things. I love food, by the way. I love food, by the way. So yeah, and the reason why I even started Afrobeats to the world is to make sure was to push the music, which is African music. And I feel like right now is a good time to push the music, and it's always been a good time to push the music. But I feel like we are living in a time right now where it's a very powerful thing, and I feel like the music is what's connecting us as black people around the world.
So I know you just had your 2-year anniversary for Afrobeats to the world, but you haven't been in it for only 2 years. So what was it like getting to this point and bringing African music to the U.S. and because it wasn't always popular. Like, I live in LA too, and I know that I could only go to your events to hear proper African music and actually see people enjoying themselves and dancing and like find community. So what was that like?
I've always loved hip hop, right? Hip hop was like one of my biggest years, but I always loved like African music was always being played at home, and from like how I grew up. But coming to the U.S., for me, my entry point to get into the music and into becoming a DJ was playing hip hop. And with that, at some point I realized that how do I stand out from everybody else? I said, because in LA everybody plays hip hop. In America everybody plays hip hop. So it's like, what can I do to stand out? And 2016 was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna push African music, right? I've always loved it, but like, and I've always played it, but that was like my initial goal. Was like, I want to promote African music. So once I stuck with promoting African music, it just took off for me from there. Before that, I did different other events, but now I figured that I rather have a unique name that will speak to people, that will be very inviting to other people. Because you can have somebody who lives in Japan, they'll feel invited because of the world to the world. So anybody that feels, whether they're African or not, they're always invited to the parties and to like enjoy like the experience, you know.
Like, was it challenging to get people to come to the events at first? Like, what was it like initially?
Definitely was challenging because it's like, first of all, it's like, I'm Ghanaian. There's not enough Ghanaians in LA.
I know,
right?
3.
Right? There's not enough Ghanaians in LA. But actually, there used to be a lot of Ghanaians in LA, but they all kind of like, what's the word? They all moved to Texas. Like, when I first moved to LA, so many like Ghanaians. Then when I went to college, came back, I realized everybody moved out to Texas and to like places where it was more like affordable. So, but there's still a lot of Ghanaians in LA, but you know, Ghanaians are so reserved and Nigerians are more out there, you know. So yeah, I didn't see my audience as to be just only Africans. I wanted people who love the African culture, right? So whether you're black or not, like, that was my angle. But like, that was the struggle for me, was to get people who love the culture and not just only Africans, because Africans, I realize they're gonna come because it's their music, it's their culture. But like, I wanted to go to reach people outside of that space. So I always did my events in like spaces where that can attract those type of people.
how do you think it's impacted American music and even American events? Like what you're doing and bringing Afrobeats and Amapiano and just African music and culture to America.
Man, I mean, right now, like, you can go to any, even it doesn't matter, you can go to any hip hop party or like type of party, you're gonna hear some sort of African music or have an African element of presence there. It's very important because like the audience want to hear it. So if it's not being played, you know, they're gonna go where they're gonna hear it. So I feel like now the DJs and the promoters, everybody's just kind of like implementing these things into like the music into their events. So which is helping the growth of like African music as well.
Outside of the music and the music being received more, African music being received more and played, you know, at events outside of just your events and places that you're playing, how do you feel like African culture is seeping into American culture and into the U.S.? How do you feel like it's impacting, if at all?
I mean, so now you have like the artists want to, you know, make songs with like African artists, and labels are now also coming into Africa and setting up offices and spaces, headquarters like Sony. All these labels are coming in, and which is cool, but I wish it was like African owned labels. Also too, back in the US, like all these events happening, and if Afrobeats is not being played there, or like some sort of African music is not being played there, it's like people always want to hear the music. So it's like now the promoters, the DJs are incorporating this type of music so that they can also attract different people to come to the events as well. So, but I feel like the music is definitely like the collaboration between like the African artists and the American artists. Those collab, like for example, like one of the biggest songs of 2023 was Rema and Selena Gomez, which really did very well. And I really like that Chris Brown and Sensational. I
love that song.
I love that song. I feel like he really is like Chris Brown has tried the Afrobeats thing for a while, right? But I feel like with this song, he actually like kind of nailed something down, like, and I feel like some African artists want to sound American so bad, right? And which, I mean, whatever they want to do, but I think when Chris Brown was able to touch both, because he was doing the African. He was doing like a little bit of pidgin and trying to do the patois, the Jamaican patois, and was going between English, and he was able to like bounce off all these three languages, and he did it pretty well, right? Because to a very like popular, to a very global audience, they will be able to understand those things. But like now, I feel like the dynamic of the music is changing, right? And if a lot of African artists want to appeal to these artists or to be on the global, like for example, like Ghanaian music. We were just talking about Ghanaian music, how Ghanaian music is on a standstill. I feel like music is it's also marketing. It's not only about the music, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get people to listen to the music? How do you get people to listen to you? So you have to figure it out. Like, how can I get people to listen to my music and to understand my message? Right? So it also comes back to that as well.
So I feel like what I'm hearing is that the music is at the core of like connecting the cultures. Like,
yes.
What does that feel like for you as a DJ, as a producer, and what else, like what do you think about that?
It feels good. It's like music is right now is like our biggest export. Like, right, like as Africans right now, the music is our biggest export, and I feel like we need to protect that. That's the most important thing. Is like protecting it. And it's not gatekeeping it's not a matter of about gatekeeping. It's a matter of like making sure we don't lose our identity when in the process.
Do you feel like there's potential for that to happen with like one American or Western companies and labels coming to Africa, and two?
I don't like it one bit.
Yeah.
I don't like it. They've always exploited our culture. They've always exploited us. There's people that own these labels. They're not for us. They're not by us. So that's where it starts from. For them, it's like a money grab, right?
Yeah.
It's a money grab. It's a money grab thing for us. And I look forward to in the future to seeing more African labels actually taking ownership, because they're like, do you believe they're like old High Life records till today that we don't even realize that most of the masters belong to these labels in Europe, in America. All these High Life records, a lot of big High Life records coming from Ghana, and even African music coming from most of the masters are owned by labels. And I'm not talking about the current ones. Like, I'm not talking about
a long time ago. Yeah.
Like the 60s, the 70s, yes.
Because those labels from other places, like the Western world, they understand the business of music. The business,
of course, right? And back in the days, like, you have some of these artists, you'll be under a tree, palm wine music, they'll play the music. These white boys will record it, they'll take it, they'll put it on there, they'll put it on a vinyl, whatever. They start selling it. It's under a label. They're making this money. When these legends die, their family even don't even know how they even collect these royalties.
That's really sad.
You know, and we need a system for that.
Yeah. Where do you see African music heading? Going, like, you know, I don't know if you plan to have some sort of label, or you don't have to share that plan if you don't want to. But
yeah, I mean, a label has always been one of my. I actually, for me, I've always been about Africa. Like, to start with, like, that's my goal. Is like to build Africa, to develop Africa. Africa isn't me, so it's like that's the goal. Like, my goal is to like start a label that can help Africans, music festival that can push African artists and black music in general. You know, so those are the things, and like any way to kind of like create jobs for the continent, and like, you know, one of my goals, because I realized that a lot of African artists, or just artists in general, do not really tour Africa, like have it like as a route. Like, okay, we're gonna stop in Accra. We stop in Accra. We're going to Lome. We're doing Benin. We're doing Lagos. We're going, you know, a tour, but not a road but like a proper tour. Because like, why hasn't like a lot of these big African artists actually have a proper African tour? So like, my goal with my entertainment company is to make sure that to like come back and like actually have an infrastructure where we can actually have like live concerts and live tours throughout Africa, you know.
I love that. Yeah. Is there anything within the industry that any trends or music that's like really exciting to you that you think is going to shape the future?
Yes, I would say Amapiano is definitely was literally right now. It's a music that we never, as black people, has never been made. Like, it's new, right?
Such a vibe.
It's such a vibe. It's new, but like Amapiano has been around for a while. Like, I'll probably say 2015. But I feel like we are now catching on to it. People are now catching on to it. It's gonna be like the African dance music, like the EDM, and the music is gonna evolve, right? It's gonna like, because Amapiano comes from Kwaito, it comes from house music. And literally, it comes from like the townships in South Africa, you know. It's like somewhere in the ghetto, you know. A kid was on a laptop making it on Fruity Loops, you know, you know. But like these, like in a couple of years, we're gonna have like the Diplos of Africa, the David Guetta, the Steve Aokis, and all that stuff. And I feel like the DJs are the ones that's gonna carry.
1,000%.
Yeah, like the artists are doing a great job, but like the DJs, it's always been. Trust me, it's always like artists needs a DJ, and I feel like the DJs are the artists. You know, so.
So you talked about Amapiano, and I mean, I feel like as an African woman living in the U.S. that is in music, I feel like people don't really know anything other than Afrobeats. Like everything becomes Afrobeats when that's not true.
That's true, yeah.
So I just want to hear how you feel about that. If you feel like that's your experience.
My experience will be like, oh, I love Afrobeats. But sometimes I have friends that will play me a song. I'm like, I love it. I'll say, this is not Afrobeats. It's not Afrobeats. I'm a piano. You have to correct them. So it's like, it's about educating those people because they'll never know better. So you can explain like, yo, that's what my piano sounds like. That's what Afrobeat sounds like, right? And you try to like educate people. So my goal is always try to educate people. Even at my events, I'm like, this is my piano, and then so that they know the difference between that. So I feel like when people don't know, we just have to educate them.
Yeah. I would love for that to happen like on a larger scale of like people just really understanding it and not just wanting to have an African artist on a song or to have an African producer like do something with their music just because that's what's hot. Like, no, understand the culture and the music and where it's coming from, the history of it and everything.
Definitely.
Too. I'm curious about if you feel like any of what you've been doing, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but how is it changing your identity or shaping your identity and who you are? Like,
so for me, it's like I was saying before, like when I was doing hip hop, right? There was still identity, but I didn't really stand out. But when I started getting back to my culture and pushing African music, the agenda, now I see myself as the African music ambassador, taking the music to the people. So for me, I just want to keep doing that. I just want to the music. It's the two. Like I don't want to. I can literally get into African fashion, all this stuff, but like I just want to key in on one thing, and I feel like the music is what travels quicker and gets the message out there, and it's the biggest export right now, so.
Do you feel like you have a duty as an African artist?
Definitely.
What is it?
My duty, I mean, one of my great inspirations is Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, all these people, right? Their goal has always been about Black people. And Black people, we have to always. I love all people, but like we have to push ourselves because we have come a long way of our history, right? So it's now we have to like rebuild, and I feel like if we don't rebuild now, when are we gonna do that? So for me, I feel like I'm playing my part by promoting the music, right? And the music is what's connecting the diaspora and everybody. In the African continent, like you have people coming from like Kenya to Ghana because they heard about this festival or they're a fan of this artist here in Ghana, and people are going to South Africa because they love Amapiano, this and that. So it's like now it's like the music is like connecting people.
Yeah,
people actually get married. People actually mean their loves in their lives, So it's like it's real. It's real. People are moving back. People are buying real estate, and I always tell people. Whenever you come to Africa and you're a Black person or you're African, make sure you acquire property. Because these white people, Asians, all of them, I don't mind putting the same stuff, they come, they acquire property while we over here enjoying Dirty December.
It's true.
They're buying all this property. And where we enjoy ourselves is like 90% is not Black owned or Ghanaian owned or African owned, so we need to change that, and we need to change the way our entertainment business is. We need to be very intentional about certain things, and I like the way Nigerian artists and Nigerian music industry is becoming very intentional. They all support each other, even with the comedy. The comedians they're doing like I love what the comedians are doing in Nigeria. They work together so well, no ego, no conflict. Like everybody works so well together, and I love it. Whenever I see the Nigerian artists, and there might be internal politics, but like when it comes to them pushing the agenda of their music, they do it very well.
I'm curious about your thoughts on the economy and like, what is it like coming back from the U.S., paying for that flight? And if you had people that, you know, say, oh, I want to come to Ghana, what would you tell them? Like, what else would you encourage them to do?
I always tell them, when you always will welcome to come to Ghana, but whenever you come, have fun, educate yourself. But the most important thing is pay attention to what's going on there and who are the people who own this, because majority of the places that they're gonna go eat or have fun or go to is probably not owned by a Ghanaian. And if it is, I mean, I would tell them to always support a local Ghanaian business owner, you know. But the most important thing is, like, if you're a black person coming to it should be more than beyond just, oh, I'm coming for Dirty December, I'm just coming to have fun. You gotta find yourself. You gotta connect back, because whatever you're gonna come do here in Dirty December, you can literally do it anywhere around the world, right? So you have to come with purpose. So I always tell them, always come with a purpose. If whether you want to build your network, you want to start a business, you want to do something, I feel like I always tell them, yo, whatever you do, come back and try to see how you can help develop Africa and contribute to Africa, than just, oh, I'm just gonna come and have fun, you know. For example, like myself, whenever I come to Ghana, I teach a class, right? I teach a music production class and a DJ class, right? But in the future, my thing is, I want to actually have a space where kids can go and actually learn for free about music production. Just anything that relates to music, they can go there and learn about music.
I had a dream about that. We're going to talk about that offline.
So it's something that it's not like I want to do a lot. So as I'm saying, it takes, like, if every individual plays their role to make sure that the next generation that's coming can, because once you have to pass the knowledge on, right? And I feel like we all have to pass our knowledge on, like, whether it's in film or whatever, like, people in these roles, like, because film is a major key too, right? Because you can create film to put these politicians on blast. Like, you have to create it. you don't. It's not direct, but you're showing it, right?
Yeah.
It's not direct, but you're like, okay, this is what goes on in Africa.
And filmmakers have a duty to tell those stories
instead of doing those whatever they're doing. We're not gonna say it, but, like, they have to be intentional with a lot of things. With a lot of these things, like, for example, like this podcast is highlighting what I'm doing, so that it can also inspire other people that want to do that.
And speaking of making contributions and purpose, I would love to hear, you know, any advice that you might have to other African artists that are looking to make their mark globally. Like, you've done that. It's not just Ghana. It's not just LA. Like, I know Afrobeats to the world is to the world.
Think it might sound a little confusing, but whenever you're making the music, make the music for yourself, but also to remember that you can be able to. It's also a music business. It's not just the art, but it's music business. Educate yourself about the business and always be authentic to the music and to the culture. And the message is very important in the music, because right now a lot of the music, the message is not really it, right? Because African music is always about love. We get it. we vibrate love energy, but look at where it got us, right? And that's reality. We always like welcoming people, but always we have to, the message was really happening. Like Fela Kuti, right? Fela Kuti was the message he was pushing, right? That's what I could say. Like the blueprint is there. Like, let's talk about these matters. Let's talk about stuff that's going on in the continent. Some of these things can create awareness, can change things, and can help probably the development of Africa, because right now Africa needs to be developed, and it has to be. The music is where the music can help that.
What do you feel? What are your thoughts on, like, how African music makes African people look and how African people are portrayed as a result of music?
I mean, now we've always been the cool kids, but now everybody's here is like, yo, look, yo, like this music is so everybody want to be part of it, right? Everybody, because of the music, everybody want to get closer to an African person, or you're like, oh, I know, oh, one of my friends is Ghanaian, one of my friends is from South Africa, one of my friends is Nigeria. Everybody want to be like. They want to tell their friends like they have an African friend, you know. Before it was like, oh, the African booty scratcher, you know.
You said it, not me.
Those jokes, right? And it's just our own people, black people, like, you know. Sometimes it's our own people. Like, I feel like Africans and black people, there's no difference. It's slavery happened. That's all it is. Slavery just happened, right? And right now we need to get back on track. We shouldn't be like, oh, you're African American, you're American. Like, it's just a label. Like, we forget about the label, because that's what they want you to focus on, and let's focus about us coming back to us and rebuilding us. So, it's a great time. It's a great time to be African. It's always been a great time to be African. And by the way, Africa is not really the name Africa, so that's how I'm gonna leave it.
Okay.
It's however you take it.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and especially leave your comments and thoughts about what you heard. If you liked it, if you agree, disagree, we want to hear it all. And make sure that you tap in with Blaq Pages.